This third example is another example of background replacement, which is technically, the same as sky replacement. It's taking the image in back of your subject and replacing it. So again, this is going to be a very quick tour through the layer stack here on the right side of the screen to see how I got from the initial capture to the final rendering. Let me turn off the visibility of everything but the bottommost layer. So there's the initial capture taken at the San Diego Zoo, and the background is way too bright and not very interesting. So the first thing I did was got an image of some, I don't know if that's bamboo or eucalyptus, it's one of the two, and kind of moved it into position where I wanted it. And then I took a second copy of the panda and masked out the background on that copy of that pixel layer and moved it in on top of the bamboo. Okay, after that I'm darkening down the tree because it's a little too light. After that I'm lightening up the panda, and it looks like I've sharpened it up also. And that's it. That's, it's a fairly straightforward background replacement. My next example is also a background replacement. This is a cute little koala, and I believe this is in the Fort Worth Zoo in Fort Worth, Texas. So let's take a look at the layer stack and see how this rendering progressed. I'll turn off the visibility of everything but the background layer, or in this case the background layer group. And this is clearly bamboo, a little bamboo grove. After I moved that onto the canvas there, I lightened it up with a curve and then put it on a layer group that added the sleeping koala. Let's open up that group and take a little closer look at the steps involved there. If I disable the mask, there's the koala as shot. Again, the background's too light and not very interesting. So I masked that out. Then did some sharpening on the koala. Let's see. Darkened down the tree limb that he's sleeping on there. Desaturated it some. Added some shadows to give some dimensionality to both the bear and the log. That completed that group, and then changed the tone a little bit of the overall picture. And that's it for that rendering. Okay, this is also a background replacement example, but there's many more steps in this rendering than there were in the previous examples. These night photos are always harder for me to make than pictures during the day, so I have to work at them a little more. Now let's take a quick walk through the layer stack now and just see how we went from the initial captures to the final rendering. If I turn off the visibility of all but the bottommost layer that we're using, we can see it's just a picture taken of the moon at night. After that, I'm putting some more clouds up in the sky there, adding a few branches to the trees, mapping the background to black and white. Then I'm adding kind of a blue color tint to the background. Let's see, those are unused. Finally, I'm putting the bat into the foreground. And if we disable the layer mask here, we can see that the bat was shot with a very uninteresting background. Right? This bat is in captivity, so it's being captured in a place that had real tree branches, but not a natural outdoor setting for the background. So that's why I wanted to do a background replacement. There it is. Then there's a few fix-ups to the bat, changing the brightness of some of the branches there, changing the lighting on the bat a little bit, toning down some of those really bright highlights on that top branch because I don't want your eye to be drawn up there. Changing the, let's see, it looks like I'm just changing the tone and the focus a little bit on the bat, adding kind of a blue tint to the sky, sharpening up the bat, and finally changing the overall tone of the image. So more steps in this rendering, but most of it has to do with adjusting the image to try and make it look like perhaps not a realistic night image, almost an image, out of imagination rather than a realistic capture.